I guess this is what we're going to have tonight. So I'm going to make a game day decision and not be so formalized and give you guys some benefit of the doubt. Kind of a bonus, I guess. It's not really a benefit of the doubt. Bonus for being the ones that show up on here. Topic I had set for tonight was, it's actually a webinar that I'm going to be running later this week. You guys as clients, you weren't invited to the webinar because it's not really designed for you guys. It's a marketing outreach for TRC, but I was going to give you guys kind of the down and dirties of it here tonight. So I'm going to still do it. I'm just not going to do it as formalized with slides and everything. And the big topic was, I know 2021 is starting to come to an end, but it's something Roger and I have been paying attention to over the last handful of months. It's been June, I think it was, Roger, when Google did their last full rollout of the algorithm change.
Yep, it's a June.
Yep, and ever since then, there's been some, I don't want to call it nuances, but there's been some very kind of specific items that Roger and I, and you guys know, we're part of a number of different organizations from an agency standpoint. I think listen, I think Roger goes to sleep reading the Google handbook and the Google code manual because he wakes up every day with new ideas of things.
I know what, maybe that's what I need and it'll help me sleep.
Well, I can tell you right now, I wouldn't get through the first line before I'd fall asleep. I can stay up for hours reading it, geek out on it. But so I would call him the Googlenator. But there's a couple of things that we're noticing, and that is there's kind of this, what we're saying is the new SEO trend or the new SEO focus specifically for service level business. And as real estate investors, that's what we are, right? We provide a service. We don't have a product on our front end. We have a product on our back end. The product is the done house. That's a retail sale. That's a physical asset that you're selling. Little different strategy in that space. But as real estate investors, our primary focus, filling the front end of our funnel, it's all around providing a service. And you know what? I'm going to screw it. I am going to bring up some of the slides just because I have them here. And I can share a few of them for us. Move this over here where I can see everybody. Roger, JP, I can see the two of you right now. Give me a thumbs up. Did you see the slides? All right, cool. So this new SEO kind of focus. Big question is, what do you guys think? Is it still important? The trend that we're seeing, do you think it means SEO is still important? Does it still matter? Absolutely, right? I would actually go as far as saying, and I bet Roger could agree with this, it's probably more important today than it has been in the last couple of years. Would you agree or disagree on that one, Roger?
1000% agree.
And here's a couple of reasons why. When we start looking at data, 71 to 75% of the clicks where people are actually engaging in Google search is in these two highlighted sections. And I don't need to explain what each of these sections are to you guys. You guys kind of already know. We've been through enough of the trainings with Roger and I. Obviously, the top section, that's GMB. That's Google My Business, right? That's the map pack of it. And then beneath that, that's in our organic section. So when we really sit down and think about it, 3 out of every 4 people that search something interact in either the map pack or that top section of the organic listings. Well, how do we get there? It's through SEO. It's through the optimization of our searchable content, of our searchable assets online. But this one here was pretty staggering to look at. 67% of people click on the top 5. If there's a map pack, 67% of people are going to click on one of the top 3 of the map pack and one of the top 2 or 3 of the organic search. So this started to shine some light that I know Roger throws this joke around all the time. Most people don't even know page 2 of Google exists. I was on a potential sales call a couple of days ago, early last week, and somebody said, you want to know how to hide a body, put it on page 2 of Google. Because very few people even know that page 2 exists. But based on this data right here, even page 1 only really matters if we're where.
First 2 or 3.
Yeah. The only way to kind of solidify it is what Roger talks about all the time, the golden 3. We need to be in that number 1, number 2, number 3 spot to pretty much, I don't want to say guarantee that we're going to get traffic, but just give us a solid chance of being in the game. If we're not in those top spots, we're really kind of in the clouds. And I go back to, how do we get there? SEO. We've got to be optimizing everything in a very strategic fashion. And I'm going to let Roger speak on some of these pieces here in a little bit, kind of some of the nuances and things that he's noticing that are changing, not necessarily changing, they're still in existence, and they're actually getting more credit today than ever. So yes, it still matters. And these are just some case studies that I was going to show in there on it. So what are some of the big changes? Big changes that are starting to really showcase themselves. Duplicate content cannot be kind of relied on anymore. I know some people in the past used to teach, hey, just go find a blog that you like, copy it, paste it to your blog, and put the link to the original blog in there to give them credit for it, and that will help. When we're doing a direct copy and paste, that is duplication of content. Even if I'm in LA, JP's in Jersey, and I go and copy his blog word for word, put it on my website, and even if I give him the link back to it as credit, right, as citing the source in a sense, it's still something negative. You've heard Roger talk about links. Go build links, get links coming back to you, right? Backlinks to the site. Low quality backlinks are actually detrimental. They could hurt. And Roger, why don't you explain a little bit on what are some like easy, low quality links that some people in the past have gone and done that could be giving them kind of a negative mark?
Some low quality links is basically, I don't know if anybody's in this group, maybe you've heard me say it or if you've heard it on your own, but something like PBNs are basically public blog networks that an individual creates, right? Not all of them are bad. I'm not saying all of them are bad. There's actually some very good ones. It's just a network of blogs. We can have one. It's basically building websites out there, multiple websites, and just pumping them full of low quality content that makes no sense. A lot of people use like spin content, like Shawn was saying, some duplicate content, very short, very spin, makes no sense. And they just pump them full of content, and then they drive additional basically low quality links to those. And low quality links is basically like I talk about the domain authority. If it has no quality, you probably have a domain authority of 1 to 5 or something like that, something low. And you're driving a lot of those links. But since you have a lot of those links, sometimes you do drive that authority score up. Okay, go upstairs. Sorry. But those low quality links are coming from low quality websites. That's what it comes down to. Go ahead, Shawn, because I got some,
Riley needs your attention. The other one that's really becoming kind of a big aha is, in the past, I know Roger and I used to tell you guys to do this. You're a real estate investor. You don't really have an office. You want to do well on GMB. We need an address at least. You need to be able to get verified on there, but just don't show the address. More and more, Google is starting to de-reward for that. Virtual type offices, hiding of the business address. These are other elements that are hurting. Again, I go back to, if they bring in a map pack, more people are interacting in that map pack and those first couple search. So if I'm going to optimize my GMB, I need to make sure that I'm checking all the boxes. And one of the big elements of that is a physical address. And I know we could do some other trainings in the future. And I know Roger's done some stuff, and we've talked about this in the past on what are some other ways of having the address. Again, even as real estate investors, you're working from your home. It's not as great as having a commercial building, but it's still something, right? And I know Roger's got a strategy, let the address be seen, but don't have the image there by filling your GMB with a lot of other images to kind of push the image of the home way back in the photo reel so that people don't even recognize that piece. The idea is that it shows up on the map, because the second we go and hide the address, we're losing that big element of it. So these are some of the big changes that really would apply to kind of anybody. Some of the other changes that we've noticed: mobile optimization, mobile friendliness. You guys don't have to worry about that. All of your sites are built with that in mind. There's some other kind of nuanced ones, but nothing that's going to pertain so much to you guys here. So what do we mean by duplicate content here? I want to break each of these down kind of real quick, and then we'll kind of go to questions around this. Most of the time as real estate investors, we're only operating in like this 25 to maybe 50 mile radius. Some of you guys are in tighter metropolitan areas, even smaller, right? So you've got a lot of little cities and towns inside of this region. Duplicate content would be trying to use, let's say I wrote a blog article on stopping foreclosure in Los Angeles. Well, if I look at Los Angeles, it's only from Chatsworth, where I'm at, to downtown Los Angeles is only like 15 miles, 18 miles. But there's probably 25 different areas between where I'm at in Chatsworth and that 18-mile radius to downtown. So I can't just put out content at Los Angeles level and expect that that's going to resonate both with Google and with somebody else who's in Simi Valley, Canoga Park, West Hills, Chatsworth, West Hollywood, North Hollywood, South Hollywood. You see what I'm saying? There's so many other things that all these tiny little towns throughout that I need to be paying attention to from a content standpoint. This right here, it used to be commonplace to just set up pages for each city and keep everything the same. We give you guys this right out of the box, right? We've given you kind of the core structure of the city page. But what makes them a little bit unique is the fact that they're built for the individual cities. But I go back to individuals like John Paul. Every time I pull up one of his city pages compared to somebody else, what makes John Paul's a little unique? The content is very specific to that location. He does a really good job of photos. He does a really good job of videos. He does a really good job of writing content that's tied back to the city page. And I know, Roger, this is something you talk a lot about, right? From a silo structure, interlinking of the website that really helps bring relevancy to the location. So you want to expand on this one just a little bit?
Yeah, so we're just actually talking about this earlier in regards to like landing pages, and not only just cities, but also topics that you're going after. I know like Lorraine talks a lot about notes, and there's other clients that are talking about certain very specific kind of services that they're offering. Those right there, I mean, building out those silos and supporting that one topic, that pillar page. In other words, essentially those are just different ways to call a landing page. And how you're going to push it. Because if you're not going to do that, then you need to have a game plan on how to promote that piece of content, right? And a lot of times we just don't have time to promote that piece of content unless we're going to drive ads to it, basically paid advertisement. So we kind of default back to a silo structure to pull that power. So those silos are extremely important.
And part of that ties to this point right here. A lot of multiple sites. We hear it a lot: squeeze pages, right? Single page, landing page style websites. We've been hearing a little bit more uptick in conversations. Roger and I, when we get on, sales calls, we've even heard from some of you guys, some of the clients reaching out. Hey, I need a landing page. I need to build this other specific page over here with this domain and these type of things. This was the strategy at one time. to have a bunch of different, basically micro sites, landing pages all over the place. A lot of that has changed. It's actually more of a detriment than it is a positive today. And that's because a big portion of Google has shifted and they really want brands. They want brand awareness. They want brand unity. They want similarity, right? They want to be able to tie elements together. And when we've got random pop-up pages all over the place with unique URLs and content specific to this one over here, but then we duplicate that content over here and just put a different URL to it, you can see how this starts to almost resemble spam. It almost looks bad, right? So Roger, talk on that one just a little bit of why the blend. This is something we've done. You guys get the benefit of it. You're already working with us, but this blend of having not just standalone squeeze pages, but all of it built in, right? All encompassing into the overall scheme.
Right. So it comes down, it's actually pretty simple, because when you're building those landing pages, there's a lot of effort that goes behind promoting those landing pages, whether it's paid ads, whether it's silos, whether it's you just putting it into social media and really pushing the attention towards those pages. So since we already know the big shift has been towards brands, then we've moved toward, and this is not new either. That's how we've been doing it for a while now. It makes a lot of sense to have all those pages live on your site, have an actual URL that lives on your site. You drive that traffic. Once again, whether it's organic, paid, doesn't matter. But all that power, all that attention then is related, basically powers up your overall domain, which increases your domain authority, right? And that in the future will benefit you, because as you build more content that maybe you're not putting that much attention to, that content tends to have a little bit of juice to then rank by itself as well. So it's really, really important to kind of build those, keep all those microsites that in the past were a good idea, still a good idea, but build them within your domain.
This one here, you kind of already talked pretty deep on this, so I'm not going to go too much deeper on that topic around the low quality links, things like the PBNs, and just, you heard us talk enough about the domain score. If you're looking at, and there's a free plugin that we use, Moz is a good one to pop on. If you're looking at a site, you're thinking about getting, some guest articles or guest content on that for that link back. If their domain score is low, the quality of that is going to be low. And that's what we're talking about here, is too many of those, right? We got to find the balance. We don't want links just for the sake of links. We want good quality links for the sake of having links in there. Like somebody popped in. Tony said, so do the different pages show in menu on the site, or are they kind of orphaned in their own area? So that's a great question, Tony. Tony's actually going back to this piece right here about the multiple microsites. If you look on your current site, most of the time you can see all the different components. Roger can actually talk a little bit about this. The importance of the footer. This is another one that I see. Roger sees it a lot. Websites don't have footers on it. Roger, why don't you actually expand on that one a little bit? What the footer is to Google. But Tony, you'll notice in that footer the list of the different sites or different pages on your site on there.
Yeah. So not only the footer, but the actual navigation structure, the top navigation. So on all of you guys' sites, you'll see that, right? You have all your pages, all your internal pages, everything on the navigation bar. And then if there's extra pages that maybe we created for other projects, maybe landing pages, right, that you requested, we try to still add them to the footer, because what you're creating is basically interlinking. And that can by itself actually be very powerful if you're not already creating backlinks to your site from authority websites. And if you are creating backlinks from authority websites, that interlinking strategy actually becomes even more powerful. So what it's doing is, you got to think about when basically Googlebot, RankBrain, whatever you want to call it, the Google scanning your website. If it has nowhere to go, what I mean by that, when that little program or that little bot hits your website, it's looking for hyperlinks. It's looking for links, whether they're pointing to an external asset, right, another website, or it's pointing to an internal page. That footer and that top navigation basically tells a story of what's available. And if you have a nice silo structure that basically allows the bot to scan your entire site, very fast, then it's able to understand all that content. What happens usually to Tony, I think that's what Tony meant. It's like when you have these landing pages and that landing page does not have an inner link to another page within the website, whatnot, it starts turning into an orphan page. That one really, really fast begins to be non-relevant to your SEO strategy. That now sits by itself. It won't rank as well. And if you ever try to start spending money to kind of drive links or do some kind of strategy, SEO strategy, it still doesn't work. Why? Because it's not relevant to anything else. There's no more value. But when you connect it to the rest of the website, you just created a ton of value because you have all these other pages that it's connected to. And most of it, if you have your silo structures correctly, Googlebot then kind of starts putting the puzzle together and looking at the association with the other articles. So that's hopefully, Tony, that kind of makes sense. You don't want orphan pages hanging out there. You want at least one link connecting back to the site, and then that inner link, wherever it's at, hopefully that page has other links connected to the rest of them. That way, when the bot hits it, it kind of spreads the love, right? It goes through the entire site.
That help answer that, Tony? Cool. So then on that topic of the Google Maps piece, we've talked about this before. Some of you guys have probably experienced this. Things like the UPS store, they used to work. Things like mailbox houses, right? Places where you could just get a mailbox kind of piece. UPS store was one of those versions. Even PO boxes. These type of things are not working anymore for the Google My Business element. Google really wants a physical address in the areas that you're trying to show up in the maps for. Now, there are some places out there. Liz, Marie, I think you guys rent your office from one of them, the WeWorks, the Regis of the world. These different kind of co-working, co-share, kind of co-op style workplaces. A lot of times they've got like desks for rent, they've got private rooms for rent, but they've also have what they call virtual office for rent. Those ones are actually able to work. And I think like WeWork's virtual one is $40 a month to have it. Those ones actually work because there's a physical human at the reception desk. There is somebody there answering a phone if somebody called that place. There is somebody there when the mail gets delivered. That is why those kind of work. Actually, TRC's address, our Nevada address, is actually at a place like this. There's probably 190 businesses that use that same address, but they have staffed office, a staffed receptionist there. If we get mail there, I get an email that there was mail, they scan it to me, all that kind of stuff. So we're able to leverage that and get that approved by Google because it is a staffed facility. So if you're one of those ones that's been kind of using the home address, but you want to start playing more on the GMB side of things, this would be something to look at. Look in your area at some of the kind of co-op, co-working spaces. Regis, WeWork, those are the two off the top of my head that I know are nationwide. There's a ton of spinoffs ever since they started becoming more popular, but see if they have like a virtual desk office rent where it's you could use the facility. You don't have a dedicated space, but you can leverage it from an address standpoint. I'm going to let Roger actually talk a little bit on this part right here. Some of the old-fashioned SEO not being any more effective, like no longer really being effective, and just some of the changes that you've seen in the SEO strategy. I know we're actually changing some of our ways that we attack in our accelerator and dominator levels because we're seeing things gaining more benefit than others, so to say. So if you can talk a little bit on that, Roger.
Absolutely. So that's actually an exciting topic for me. As Shawn makes fun of me, I go to sleep reading the Google manual. Actually, blogs. I read a lot of blogs, and I'm a part of a lot of interesting groups, SEO groups. And some of these guys get very deep. So it's very interesting for me to kind of sit in on a lot of this stuff and learn. Once again, a lot of us are, you know, we're considered, you know, we learn and everything, and people start looking at us as experts, but then you just get blown away by people that are still out there grinding on this information, and it's awesome. So I don't want to say, I don't want to go as far as saying that the old methods are dead. They just gotten better. There's been more opportunity, and what Shawn means by us changing, we're adding more to our strategy. There's certain things that just needed to be tweaked based on the algorithm. That's what it is. It's very interesting, because it's not even a big shift. It's just certain tools that are giving us certain data. We talk about having the right data to make the right data-driven decisions. Well, we're starting to get that. And there are some tools out there that are starting to give us that. We're starting to kind of peek under the hood as well with Google, and the amount of testing that's happening out there that we've been able to tap into through our groups, SEO groups and other agency groups, has now kind of taken kind of our strategy and pretty much put a little bit of nitrous on it. So a lot of those strategies that were working in the past are still working. Everything we've done for you guys, the way our structure on our websites are set up, everything is great, but there's going to be other people coming after you, especially if you're in a more competitive market. You're going to need some of these more advanced strategies, right? So what we're doing, we're working really fast to try to kind of adjust certain things. And it comes back, it's very simple. It comes back to brand signals. Who can build more brand signals to their brand as quick as possible, or just build them with time, right? If you're in a competitive market, we can probably look at what the competitor is doing with some of the tools that we have, and just create a custom strategy to build more signals than them, right? And it's just not in one place. I showed it last week. I think it was a week before. Can't remember, when I showed the diagram of the different diagrams of areas. Well, that is where we're heading. Before, I was really focused on one diagram, basically the silo, right? The website, and then really started kind of pushing and educating around the GMB. That's not going anywhere. That's actually getting more intense. But now I'm adding, or the team, the SEO team and TRC team and REI Toolbox team, now we're adding additional assets around your brand to build even more signals, right? So we're going to start really educating around that. And obviously with our accelerator, dominator level packages, those are going to be included. So that's where we're heading. None of that stuff in the past. It's still good. You're probably still doing, 80 to 90% better than anybody in your market. And that's why you're sitting in page 2, page 1, right? But to get to those golden positions in some markets, it's going to take going out and building these additional assets that will build hundreds, if not thousands of more signals than your competition to get us to those positions.
So if you're writing notes, the one thing I want you to write down, the number one change that's gone on since probably June when they made this. I think they've been changing slowly to this, but I've noticed it since this rollout in June. The number one change that's happened is Google is completely focused on the user. The user. It is more about user experience when it comes to ranking than anything. And what Roger's talking about with some of these additional changes from signal creation, authority building, right? EAT is still a big piece of this: expertise, authoritativeness, and trust. Because at the end of the day, Google cares about the user and pleasing the user. And they want to make sure they put the best expert with the most authority that they trust very well in front of them. And there's a couple things from a factor standpoint. These are in no particular order, so don't think this is like you have to get them done in these order, but these are some of the big key ones. Click-through rate. It's one thing to get traffic to the site. That's a positive. But I go back to, what do I tell you guys all the time? Your website is like a brick and mortar. If I'm constantly getting people to my front door of the brick and mortar store, but nobody opens the door and comes in, does it really matter how many people I have at my front door? Click-through rate on a website is the same thing. If they get there, that's great, but they're standing at your doorstep. We've got to get them to click through, into, do things, move around the site. The scroll rate is another element of it. How far on a page do they actually get? This is some metrics that I've been really paying attention to for a number of the brands that we're kind of operating in that accelerator dominator level for, and noticing just how far down a page is somebody actually getting. And I'll give you guys a little case study real quick. One of the brands that we've been working with, the primary page that people are getting to, they're only getting about 30-40% down the page before they go somewhere else, right? There's multiple pages that they're interacting on, but the deepest of any of these pages is about 30-40%. Well, if we've got good, juicy stuff, if we've got valuable information, if we've got cool videos, if we got things that could help them, and it's down at the 60, 70, 80, 90% of the page, and the majority of people are only getting 30 or 40% down the page, is it really doing anything for them? Are they even seeing it? So understanding where is this person's journey at once they get in. Translate that to a brick and mortar. They walked in the front door, they stepped about 5 feet down the first aisle, and they turn around and left. Doesn't matter what, if my sale rack is in the back of the room, if they never even get back there to see it, right? Time on page, this is becoming even more of a big deal. There's little tricks that we have. One of those we tell you guys all the time: post your videos to YouTube, embed them onto the page, because just by them clicking play and watching that video, if they don't click the little watch on YouTube button and go over to YouTube, they're now hanging out on your page. That's time on page, right? Time on page is time in store. If you stood at your front door and stopwatched people coming in, see how long they actually hung out in the store, I bet you could draw a correlation to people spending more time in my store, buy more product. People spending more time on your website are more likely to reach out to you in some shape or some way, fill out a form, call the phone number, some sort of engagement. If you had a chatbot on the site, engage with the chatbot, these type of things. Bounce rate. Bounce rate is something to watch really, really close. Google's paying attention to this even more. What is bounce rate? Basically, in a nutshell, it's this: I land on a website, I don't do anything, and I hit the back arrow. Maybe I accidentally clicked the wrong result in the search. I got to the website and I, whoops, wrong one, and I hit back. I didn't do anything else. Bounce rate shows that there's no value. That person didn't see any value to do anything, and they left. That's a negative harm to it. And then this one here, citations. Roger's talked about this one a lot, but this right here, I think, is becoming more and more popular. Roger and I actually just did an entire episode on the WebBuzz podcast where we basically talked about the power of reviews on a site. When Roger, JP, myself, Marie, we were all in Baltimore, we literally chose a restaurant simply because of reviews. Had no other information about this place, but the reviews were enough to make us make a decision to go and try it. So if you're not focusing on getting reviews out there, this reviews, and this kind of goes back to the GMB side. The more reviews that we're getting to our GMB, the better our ranking authority is going to come from it. So a couple kind of tasks here, so to say, or some things to pay attention to. This isn't any new news to you guys. This is stuff we talk about all the time. You really got to start paying attention to what are the most important keywords based on your service and area. This is why we've been preaching so hard to really start to find what the primary niche of your real estate business is. I know individuals like Kim, Lorraine, Mickey, Liz, JP, you guys have really started to dial those in, right? Chris, I think you and your dad are starting to kind of dial that in a little bit, right? Really starting to figure out what is that niche and paying attention to the most important keywords, service area, service location, right? Around it. You don't have to worry about this. You've already got that done. You don't have to worry about this because this is something we pay attention to right out of the gate. However, optimize for on-site and off-site authority. Your on-page SEO, if you've just gotten your website and you're sitting in the foundation package, your on-page SEO, Roger, what would you say? 95% complete. Right? There's always room for enhancement, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So it's
especially on your market. It depends on your market too, right? You could be actually 50% depending on your market if there's a lot of competition.
Correct. So you're kind of there, but the idea is there's always more to do from an on-page and off-page optimization standpoint. I'm going to have Roger speak on, and Roger, I know you did the Loom video. I don't know if you have a couple things pulled up for Sell My House Fast GSAP. If you want to pull a couple things up on that one, on it, because what he's seeing, this is one of our dominator level clients, and what Roger's seeing on that client is we really got to like go hardcore on both of these two just to get them from, I think it's like number 4 or 5 in the rankings to number 1, because everybody above them is doing basically what we're doing. We just have to figure out how to do more and better of it to get them there. And that's where this comes down to tracking of the results. And I think that was it that I wanted to hit you guys with. This is all stuff you already know. We already built that stuff out for you. If you haven't done so already, we've talked about this a lot. Make sure you get out there, claim that Google My Business listing and start optimizing it. I can't emphasize enough just how important the GMB is becoming to the ranking factors. And then this one right here, get reviews. You should be trying to get a review from just about anybody and everybody you interact with from a business standpoint. I don't care if it's seller only, contractors you've done business with, suppliers you're doing business with, potential lenders, people that you've talked to, people that you know, other people at other organizations, other professional organizations, whoever can write review. The more reviews that you can get on your GMB speaking about you, the better. And I'm going to be doing some trainings as we close out the year on some ways that you can start to kind of think about, how do I put these kind of review asks into my different processes on there. So with that, Roger, I'm going to have you kind of talk to that on-page, off-page optimization standpoint, and kind of just use real brief Sell My House Fast GSAP, like some of the stuff that you're noticing, what's holding them back from moving up that we need to do to get them there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll share my screen here in a little bit, but that's you guys. If you guys saw that video, if you haven't, basically I did a quick review video, but I kind of gave a couple tips because we're doing a lot for this particular client, and I'm still having to coach them through certain things to try to get those reviews, right? Try to kind of like get the local searches, the manufactured kind of searches kind of created, because his competition actually has SEO agencies like us working on their stuff. So we're going head to head with some of these people, and we're trying to get them to number 1. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Don't have a lot set up here, but at least we'll kind of go over it together in case there's questions about your particular situation. We'll be able to speak to that. So just give me thumbs up that you guys can see. I think you can see it. You're good. All right. So first things first, this is the website we're looking at. Looks very familiar, right? Very like a lot of your guys' websites. Kind of, this is the home page. We have a ton. Everything that's highlighted in color, right, is an internal link. He just happens to have a domain, and this is, I mentioned it in the video, this is not asking you guys to go and try to find an exact match domain. That's not always a benefit, but in this case, he had that, so it's giving him a little bit of a push. But where we're trying to go, he's very specific. He wants to, his main hub is Greenville, right? So we're doing decent or very good in some of these other locations, but Greenville, I mean, if somebody looks at that, it's like, oh man, you guys are killing it. You guys are on page 1, you're up in the upper levels. But at the end of the day, the big chunk of the traffic for this market is in the number 1, number 2 positions, mostly in the number 1. So that's where I'm going to make this client money. I need to get them there, right? So we've done a lot. I mean, if you haven't done some of these simple items, this is something to work on. So if you haven't started, look at the background image. It's an image of Greenville, right? And we geotag this thing, and then the file name is with the keyword, right? Boom. We go down, we have the video. If you haven't done that, we talked about this already. Put the video on YouTube, put a backlink to this particular page. You just created a very powerful backlink for yourself. We have the badges here for Google. Obviously, this guy has a couple 5-star reviews. That's very important. Now I'll kind of expand on that Google part, because we're starting to move into, since we are competing in the organics, a lot of the local searches, we're now going all in the Google My Business profile and really kind of gearing up and setting up our tool set to help our clients in the Google My Business profiles. So this has been a big one. So reviews, it used to be a push and a recommendation, no longer. It's a requirement, right? Go out there and get them, because that's how we're going to compete. Because everybody now knows about optimizing their Google My Business profile, but now you got to see what else you can do, and reviews are the next step, right? That's basically what's going to give the signal for who is doing what, who's still in business, and who is talking about who, right? It's like what clients are talking about what companies. Goes back to brand signals. As I scroll down, obviously we interlink to some of the content. You don't have to create a ton of content either, guys, for this particular location. You create a couple of them, and then you do the syndication, basically syndication strategy, where you're going to do a press release, right? You have to start feeding it some kind of other assets that are going to go ahead and syndicate your message to then create those signals. So in this case, we're doing, we're doing press releases. We're going out there and creating blog posts. We're sharing it on social media. I mean, if we go and do, let me see here. So right here, you guys kind of see it. We have already done a couple press releases for this client, but on his Google My Business profile, we also have the posts, and those posts link back to this, and we're doing the Google Stack strategy as well. But we're going to continue to do that, and pretty much in a cycle till we get to number one. And that's one of the things that I was talking about on that video, that we didn't just do one time. This is what people think, like, I'm going to do it one time and walk away. It's like every couple weeks, we actually do another set of either a press release or a Google Stack or something like that, to keep moving the needle, because we need to keep telling Google that we're there, we're existing, and we're going after this keyword. People are talking about us, and you keep rinse and repeat till you get to number one. So that was the goal, where we actually kind of put up the gas a little bit. And for this particular client, because we want to get them to number one, hopefully by the end of the week or the end of the following week, we're right there, we're creeping. So all we're doing is putting up a couple more signals. I'm adding some of those syndication networks into this brand and just testing a couple of things. And if it works, then we'll be doing it for other pages and other clients as well. So this is just kind of an example of building a lot of signals to get them where they're at right now. But sometimes you hit a wall, and then it's time to kind of build more. And it's one of those things, you have to have different assets out there, different ways to do it, because Google also might kind of see it coming from one place. That's why I'm building different syndication networks, so it's coming from other places as well. So I got Shawn. Let me go ahead and stop.
That's great. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to some questions. I know we've kind of thrown a lot out on this. Let's see who's got what.
Roger, on that page you just showed, okay, so 2 questions about the location page. So our location pages are built on our website. So they're not a squeeze page, they're not a landing page, they're an actual page, correct?
Correct. Well, let me clear that up for everybody, because that's kind of a question that comes up all the time. They are landing pages, they are pages, they are pillar pages. They're a main focus, right? They're a topic page that you want to rank for. And that can potentially be, because that can also be used, the term landing page, to drive traffic at a paid level. So it could be what people consider a landing page. So just, does that clear that up so we don't get kind of confused? Because it is a landing page, but it's also a page that lives on your website.
Right. Okay. So that's good. So we're good on that then, because we're already doing that.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You just showed where on that landing page, you had that citations or whatever with the as seen on page.
Yeah. So you want me to show that?
Well, but on there, so if it's on our home page, do we still need to put it on the location page? But can we not put it on the location page unless we've done a direct whatever you're calling it, the site,
Press
whatever,
release.
with that press release or with that as seen on.
Well, all right. So let's break that one down because that particular it's okay. We can use it on multiple pages, right? If you ran a press release, you basically ran a press release for your brand, right? Even though we're talking about a certain location that you do business in, you still ran it for your brand, right? So could that live on multiple pages within the website? Absolutely. But I want to be clear here. That image is not what's causing the push, right? That image is for when the traffic goes there, it's a conversion type of deal, right? Credibility. That's what it's there for, right? What happened, the push actually happened when the syndication for the press release. So even though you might not have it on your website, right? Or on your landing pages that we're talking about, your city pages, it's actually okay, but it does help for conversions. If somebody does land there, sometimes people look at that and it has been tested. When people see that, it's credibility, right?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, one last thing. On that same page, in that corner, you had all the cities and that came up on every page. Is that a benefit where it's on the main, it's on that, up in that corner of that page you just showed? That seemed to have been a header page that was showing up.
Let me go back to, let me bring it up so we can kind of go step by step, because on some, go ahead. All right. We're here.
So there, that sell my house fast cash up in the corner with the little house. Now, if you go
that's
to a
the
different
name
page,
of their, that's the name of their company.
okay, but see how it has the cities though.
That's the name of their company.
It's his logo.
Yeah, that's his logo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a very unique situation, right? It's like, I don't recommend that.
Okay.
It was very hard for this particular client. We had to do a number of things. Actually, great question, because here, let's do a something like Greenville, right? This is one of the keywords that we're actually trying to rank for. So let me show you what was happening here. So right now, we're actually doing pretty good because it's ranking the city page. When you have an exact match domain, sometimes like this client had a problem at the beginning because Google wanted to rank the homepage, right? It wasn't ranking our city page, which the city page has more value, more information. So it took some time for Google to understand that. So just so you know, that having that on there actually was a bit of a negative, because he was only siloed into ranking for a certain keyword, which was the sell my house fast and then all the city page names. So he was having trouble ranking. And right now we're trying to get him up, because if you look him up for sell my house fast, he's doing great. But all the search volume in his market is in the we buy houses, the we buy houses kind of keyword. That's where all the volume is. So that's the one we're working towards. So yeah, this right here, not recommended. It just happens that that's his company name.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Who else has got something?
Yeah, I got a question, Shawn. So
Yep.
when you guys were talking about the negatives and the new trends coming along within Google, you said something about the different locations. So in other words, do we still, when we're creating content and blogs and everything, do we still want to, I guess, go within each, how to describe this, each location? Like, for instance, Houston, right? Like, I'm in Houston, and do I always put it just for Houston, or do I still go about the same plans we talked about? We're doing Houston, Katy, and the surrounding areas. I didn't understand the negative aspect of that.
I can speak to that a little bit if you want.
Yeah,
No.
I'll let you here in a second. What I was going to add to that is you got to think larger than just the main metropolitan area. In your case, Houston, right?
Right.
Houston is large.
Yeah.
There's a lot of individual areas throughout what is considered Houston. Now, I'm going to use Los Angeles as a great example of this because it fits really well. If you ever look at a map of what is considered Los Angeles, I'm only kind of central Los Angeles County. I can drive for another 45 minutes north and still be in Los Angeles County. I can drive for almost an hour and a half south and be in Los Angeles.
Right.
So if I'm producing content in this area, yes, I want to produce at the macro level, in your case, Houston. But if I really want to start to build some strong authority and really start to showcase my expertise, I also want to be producing content for all the little individual elements, going micro level.
Okay.
And that's per service, per location. So if you're the real estate investor who says, hey, I will do deals in anything, I don't care what it is, I will do a deal in anything. Well, then there's your content matrix in essence. You need to be writing article. Think of that laundry list of bullet points that we put on your homepage. Every one of those needs to be a topic for every possible almost zip code that you can think of, if you really want to do it to a high scale. Does that make sense, Chris?
Absolutely. Yes, it does.
Now, let's talk real talk here for a second. Some of you guys have a hard time producing a blog a month on one single topic, let alone around one location. Imagine the scale that you would need to be at to produce consistent, relevant content at that level, right? Down to the micro level. But if you really want to earn the authority, if you really want to earn the power from Google, that's what it could take. Not necessarily for everybody. Roger can talk to this from a competition standpoint, but so my house fast GSAP, we're going against agencies just like us. It may take, not that this is what it is for this client, but what if that was the thing? We just needed to produce even more content at a more micro level that supports the macro, because that will help give Google more trust in us. That makes sense there?
Absolutely.
So Roger, go ahead, add what you were going to add there.
Yeah. So it all depends on your strategy, right? So I go back always to that, because I get that question a lot. It's like, well, I'm writing, I'm doing Houston, right? I got my Houston location page and I'm creating blogs for Houston, right? But then you have other location pages. Should I be creating the same type of content without, as a duplicate content, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm heading in the wrong direction, but because like what type of content do I need to produce for that city page as well, if I'm providing the same type of service, right? So it kind of feels like duplicate content. Is that kind of the question?
Yeah. Like how to not duplicate it if I'm
Got it.
doing the same thing within the sub counties of Houston too.
Got it. So that's unfortunately that's the trick. And that's why a lot of these companies are going to beat other ones, right? And that's why at our higher level, those silos, and I think who's on here that I've worked in very close to you, probably JP is probably the closest one, where we're looking at certain kind of like locations, and we're going to talk about the same topic, but we're going to do it again in a unique fashion. Does it have to be 100% unique? Absolutely not. Keep in mind, duplicate content is duplicate content, exact, right? Exact to the T. If you can go into your content, change the city, change a little bit of the paragraphs, right? Go in there, add maybe, and that's up to you. I mean, I can give you a ton of different examples, but all you have to do is tweak the content a little bit. We do that with our city pages. You'll notice that. I don't call those duplicate content because you guys have different city names and things like that. And I always encourage to add some case studies or, your reviews, things like that, to start making it a little more unique to you guys. But, and all kind of like reality, a lot of that content is the same, right? So same thing with, let's say, foreclosure. Your foreclosure article for Houston probably is going to be very close to your foreclosure article for Dallas, right? But you have to be disciplined and make your changes, because that's what the other SEO is doing. He's creating the silos. I'm creating a silo for my Dallas. I don't care what I did for Houston. I'm going to create everything that I can. Then I'm going to go to Houston. I'm going to look at my model. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to create it a little more unique, right? The content just a little bit. And I'm going to continue doing that. And what you're doing there, you're creating relevance because they're localized keywords, they're geo tag keywords, right? So you want all that content. So to a certain point, Chris, you'll get to a point, well, you have nothing else to say, for all you filled the silos, in other words, right? Now you can focus on promotion. Now there's content you're going to create that doesn't live on your site. It's going to be content that you put out there as a press release, as a guest blog, as to your syndication networks. And what all that content is doing that does not live on your website is going to create signals and noise and potentially backlinks and traffic to your site. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, Roger. Thank you. Yeah, the hard part was, I think, defining what duplicate content was.
Yeah, because I think what a lot of people are doing, they're fighting that duplicate, not to fall into that bucket of crap. I just created duplicate content and I was told not to, right? But in reality, I want to be very, very clear. Duplicate content is you taking your Houston foreclosure blog and pasting it, connecting it and using it as your Dallas blog. No, rewrite it, even if it's the same thing, copy and put it into a Word doc or a Google Doc and start going through it and see how you can change that verbiage a little bit. That's just going to benefit you. That's it. I mean, that's because I do get that pushback a lot. It's like the same thing. Once you change it a little bit, guess what? It's unique now. And that's the challenge. And even though it doesn't sound that difficult, remember your silos start getting really big. Why we have a job, right? As an agency, it's a lot of tedious work. It's a lot. My team goes through a lot of content, a lot of editing to make it unique and build all those silos for our upper level clients. And that's how we get all that power, but it all works. And it's not looked at as duplicate content.
Awesome. Thank you, Roger.
Yep.
We got a couple more minutes.
Can I ask a question about blogs?
Sure.
So should all of your blogs be directed to like a city, one of your city pages? Like I wrote a blog on what is the fair market value of your home? Because when I did my keyword search, there were like 200 searches a month just on that particular topic. Now, but when I typed in, what is the fair market value of your home in Roseville, 0 came up. So should all of your blogs be directed towards one of your cities, or is it all right to do topics that are general as long as there's, because the reason I did it was because there were searches, but there wasn't one single blog other than ads that came up written on that topic.
That's actually a great question. So do you do a general topic or do you do a city topic? As your SEO company, right? If we're working directly with you, once again, that we're creating the content, we're always going to go city. And the reason for that, even though there's low competition or low search volume, you're creating a signal, a geo signal for that city. So when you create a broad topic, right, you're competing against nationwide, even though there's 200 search, the search volume is going to be at 200 searchers per month, right? Are you going to get that traffic? Probably not, unless you're going to put a lot of effort towards it. It's good. I'm not going to say it's bad. But if you're going to spend time building this stuff, I would probably gear it towards an actual city, right? Because even if there's not a lot of search volume, you just created a signal that's going to interlink with the city page that will help it kind of support it, in other words. So as you know, talking from an SEO standpoint, we're always going to put a city. Everything that we do has to be utilized for something, right? Not general, but we always encourage our client to build those general topics. So that's why I'm saying it's not like I'm first talking as your SEO person, right? As the SEO agency. Then I'm saying, all right, once we've done all that SEO optimization and kind of built those signals, then I do encourage you to build some general stuff as well, so it can mix in with what we're creating.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what you're creating right now, Yvonne, is probably good. Keep going, because eventually we'll probably start talking about an advanced SEO strategy, and then we can get very geo-specific, right? But right now, I would rather see you continue to pump out content as you feel comfortable, even if it's general, because it's something that keeps the brand going.
Okay.
Big thing to remember. Relevant, consistent, user first.
Mhm.
Everything that you produce, relevant, consistent, user first. Relevant means it's current. If you go back on your blogs or go back to your website and you've got a topic out there that's 2 years old, it can be refreshed. You could rewrite it, bring back that same exact topic with a today date to it, a today spin and take on it. Right? Because 2 years ago, it's irrelevant now. Consistent is just that. You have to always be providing information. Go to your day job for a second. Let's go corporate America. If you helped get, let's say you're in sales and you win one big sale all year long, and that's all you did. The month that you won the big sale, you'd be at the top of the charts. But in a month, 2 months from now, you're irrelevant to the senior people because what have you done since, right? So in corporate sales, how do you climb the ladder? You've got to always be selling, always be closing, always consistently bringing in opportunities so you stay top of mind. Content to Google is the same thing. You write a blog today and you post it, you're on their radar. You don't write one next week, the week after, 3 months goes by, you finally decide to write another one. There's been a big inconsistency to it. You start to become irrelevant. User first. What do I mean by that? It's not about you. It's not what you want. I hear this one a lot. Shawn, I did this, I did X, Y, Z because I want them to do this. It's not what you want. It's what they need. User first. The byproduct of that is trust, rapport, credibility, and them wanting to do business. Now, there is a element of this, a funnel, a process in which people start to kind of move down your track and do business with you. That has to be kept at the front of the mind. But we can't lead with that. Meaning my blog articles can't all be about just a couple quick tidbits and then paragraphs of why you should call me and how great I am and how much I can do for you. The content that we produce needs to be educational so that they get value out of it. And the second element behind that content is the next steps: contacting, reaching out, opt in, fill this out, go here, whatever the next piece is, if you would like to keep going through. I just got done putting together a 53 week. I know there's only 52 weeks in a year, but I did 53. 53 week long-term nurture sequence for emails to dump people into. Across the 53 weeks, there's only 20 that end with a call to action. I don't need a call to action in everything to get somebody to take the next step. Because if they're consistently finding value in emails hitting their inbox, what are they naturally going to do at some point? Reply back. If they're getting value, they're going to reply. They're going to go up and hit the little reply button and email me back, and I can move them from there. I don't need to guide them to it or tell them or force them into it, right? So think those three: consistent, relevant, user first. When Roger's working with our SEO team, accelerator dominator packages, that is like the primary things that they're paying attention to. Is it current? Is it up to date? Is it relevant? Does it make sense? Is it around strong keywords that it needs to be around? Are we consistently getting that information out there? Are we being consistent in the strategy that we're doing, not all over the place? And are we leading with user first? Are we leading with value first? That's what will separate you online from everybody else. Make sense? Roger, anything you want to end with?
Yeah, once you set that up, what you just talked about, Shawn, then we load it with signals and then you win. So that's basically what it is. It's there's a lot of people doing it backwards, right? Really low quality content, low quality website, and they load it with signals and they're winning. Why? Because their competition, everybody else not doing anything. So someone like you guys come in with a very strong foundation, and then you add a little bit of signals and you start seeing the needle move. So that foundation is extremely, extremely important, because when we come in with our advanced pretty much SEO strategy, it's a no-brainer. You start seeing a lot of results right away.
All right, everybody. Well, with that, we will see you guys next Monday.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.